Hello, and thank you for joining us for the English Language Arts Common Core Parent Workshop. Before we begin, take a minute to think about the following question. What types of reading and writing do you do on a daily basis? Usually, people say that they read and write email, read the newspaper, medical records, online articles, and write lists or reports. The writers of the Common Core State Standards took into consideration the realities of our reading and writing lives and what this means for our students. As a result, the objectives of the Common Core are to produce students who are college and/or career ready once they graduate from high school. But what does it mean for your child to be college and career ready? In language arts, this means that your child will be able to, number one, demonstrate independence. We want students without significant support to understand and evaluate different types of texts, to make effective arguments and communicate information. They should independently understand a speaker's important points, request more explanation, and ask good questions. Number two, build strong content knowledge. Students should learn about many different subjects through reading, research, and study. This means that they are literate in science, history, and the world. Number three, they respond to the many demands of audience, task, purpose, and discipline. When communicating, students should understand and ask themselves, with whom am I communicating? What is it that I must communicate? Or what is the purpose of my communication, and how do I communicate it most effectively? They also understand that depending on the subject, different types of evidence may be necessary. Number four, your child will be able to comprehend as well as critique. We want students to work hard to understand what an author or speaker is saying, but they should also question the author or speaker's assumptions or intentions, and not take everything at face value. Similarly, number five, valuing evidence, means that our students know how to give specific and reliable evidence when speaking or writing, and they also know how to evaluate evidence that is used by others. Number six, use technology and digital media strategically and capably. Students should be able to use technology effectively to improve and enhance their learning. The most important part of this phrase, though, are the words strategically and capably. The fact of the matter is that many students already know how to use technology, but it is our responsibility to make sure that they are using the technology in a strategic and capable manner. Number seven, come to understand other perspectives and cultures. Students should appreciate that the environment is a place with many cultures and different experiences and perspectives. They should understand the importance of learning and working together. And now that technology has made physical boundaries disappear, being able to understand and work with people from diverse backgrounds is extremely important. In recent studies, employers have identified the ability to work in teams and collaboration among the highest ranked skills that they look for in effective employees. The Common Core State Standards in English Language Arts are made up of three sections. The kindergarten through fifth grade standards include a comprehensive picture of what students should know. This means that a single kindergarten through fifth grade section lists all of the standards for reading, writing, speaking and listening, and language across the curriculum, reflecting the fact that most or all of the instruction students in these grades receive comes from one teacher. Grades 6 through 12 are covered in two content area specific sections. The first is for the English Language Arts teacher, and the second is for teachers of history, social studies, science, and technical subjects. It is important to note that the grades 6 through 12 literacy standards in history, social studies, science, and technical subjects are not meant to replace content standards in those areas, but rather to supplement them. Basically, having literacy standards in all content areas is recognizing that literacy plays an important role across all of the disciplines. Now we're going to take a look at each of the strands within the English Language Arts standards and focus on some key features and changes or shifts. In the reading strand, students will be reading more challenging text as well as a wider range of texts. This does not mean that we will simply place a harder book in front of your child and then leave them to fend for themselves. But the fact of the matter is that students need to achieve higher levels of reading comprehension by the time they graduate from high school if they are to be college and career ready. A study that contributed to this shift in the standard was one that showed that when students graduate from high school, they are reading at a lower level than that which is used in college and technical books. Other studies have shown that over the years, the levels of student textbooks has decreased. A current 8th grade textbook compared to textbooks from the 1960s comes up at what used to be a 5th grade textbook. Somehow, over the years, the readability of kindergarten through 12th grade textbooks has decreased, while the readability of college textbooks has remained unchanged. It is for this reason that the gap between graduation and college reading levels exists. Consequently, text will seem more challenging, but teachers will support students appropriately so that they can learn and be successful. Another shift in reading is that students should be engaged in a wider range of reading. Going back to the initial question at the start of this presentation, we know that as adults we tend to read more nonfiction or informational than fiction or stories. In order to adequately prepare students, the range of reading will also show changes. This shift will be more evident at the elementary level, where there has historically been an emphasis on fiction or stories. The Common Core standards suggest that by 4th grade, students are reading 50% in fiction and 50% in nonfiction. By 8th grade, that split becomes 45% fiction and 55% nonfiction. And by 12th grade, it should be 30% fiction and 70% nonfiction. In the writing strand, some of the key features and shifts that we will see is that students will specifically write arguments, informative, and narrative pieces with an emphasis that strongly shifts towards argument and informative by the time students reach high school. This change, however, needs to begin from elementary school. Starting in grade 4, attention is drawn toward the connection between reading and writing by requiring that students specifically support what they write with evidence from what they read. In the speaking and listening strand, the key features include that students develop effective communication skills both formally, such as in formal presentations, and also informally when they're engaged in conversation. Students should learn to work together by listening carefully to the ideas of others and expressing themselves clearly. They should be able to take in lots of different types of information, such as video, internet, books, newspapers, and put those ideas together so that they can communicate what they think about what they read, heard, or saw. They should also understand how to change their speech depending upon where they are or who they are talking to, so that they can communicate their ideas accurately and will be well understood. For example, putting an idea forward to Congress would require a very different type of communication than, say, putting an idea forward to mom and dad. Going back to the research that was done with employers, again, Among the very top skills that they are looking for in their employees is the ability to communicate effectively. The language strand features knowing the standard rules of written and spoken English, such as grammar, punctuation, and spelling. But the Common Core standards also approach language in terms of its richness and teaching students to understand the power of words. There is a very strong emphasis on vocabulary and understanding the relationships between words and how the word choices we make have a big effect on the messages we give. The standards carefully build on each other through each grade level progression. Let's look at standard number 1 in reading informational text. In kindergarten, you would see a teacher prompting and encouraging students to ask and answer questions about important details in a text. By the end of first grade, you will notice that students are expected to ask and answer basic questions about important details without so much prompting and support that was offered in kindergarten. And by grade 2, students are taught to expand the range of questions and answers to include the 5 W's: who, what, where, why, when, and how. By grade 6, within the same standard, students have moved way beyond the asking and answering, although it never goes away. But now their questions and answers require students to provide evidence from the text to support what they think the text is saying. In grade 7, they will be required to use several pieces of evidence that come from different texts to support their analysis, and by grade 8, they are challenged to not only consider several pieces of evidence, but then to specifically select the one that most strongly supports their analysis. The Common Core state standards serve as the foundation for us to prepare your children to graduate as literate citizens who are college and career ready. Santee School District is committed to providing your children with top quality instruction in order to make the objectives of the Common Core a reality. This concludes this presentation, but for more information, you can visit these links. If you would like to read the complete text of the standards, please visit the Common Core Initiative website, or you can access it through the Santee School District website at www.santeesd.net. Once you're on our website, you can come up here to the Parent Resources section and then click on the link called An Introduction to Common Core State Standards. Here you can scroll down and then click on Especially for Parents. This page contains much information about the Common Core State Standards, especially for parents. Thank you very much for joining us, and if you have any further questions, please feel free to talk to your child's teacher or your school's principal.